a couple of months ago down at the Chamber of Commerce. He was a program. Thoroughly enjoyed his program. I thought that you might like to hear it also, so invited him here today. Appreciate Ms. Duncan doing that. But just a short bio on Mark. He graduated from the United States Military Academy at West Point in 1982, earning a Bachelor of Science in Engineering and commissioned as an Army officer. He also holds a Master of Science in Chemistry from the Pennsylvania State University and a Master of Science in Strategic Studies for the Army War College. Over his 26-year career in the Army, Mark has had numerous commands and staff assignments in Germany, Balkans, and the United States. He's commanded an armor battalion in Fort Knox and was an instructor at the Joint and Combined Warfighting School in Norfolk, Virginia. From 2005 to 2008, he was the garrison commander at Fort Knox, responsible for the day-to-day operations of the installation and his role. He also directed the planning and execution of the base realignment and closure, BRAC, you know it, recommendations affecting Fort Knox. He is currently Special Assistant to the Kentucky Governor Steve Beshear, focusing on coordinating federal and state efforts to support BRAC growth, and the Executive Director of the Kentucky Commission on Military Affairs. So it's my pleasure to introduce this time Mr. Mark Needham.
All right, so it's important when you're talking to folks to get to know the audience. This is going to be a little participatory thing here, and we'll see a little bit of what you know and some of what I might know. Let's go around the room and just tell me your name, and if you know what you want to do after graduation, let me know.
Let's start with Tyler Skaggs, engineer.
Engineer, good.
Paul Dangerfield, and sports training.
Okay, great.
Ryan Hornback, aviation, like a pilot or aerospace engineer.
I can help you get in the Army if you'd like to do that.
Okay. Cole Hughes, pastor.
Okay.
Caleb Canner, aerospace engineer.
Awesome.
Christian Pope, psychology.
Good.
Brandon Henning, engineer.
Okay, he's going to try to get inside my head during this time.
Alicia Durbin, something medical.
Okay.
Haley Hall, and I'm not.
Okay. I'm glad someone said that, because that is okay. You know what? It's okay. You're going to go on and you're going to figure that out in time. But that's great.
Haley Bass,
Okay.
Taylor Skaggs,
Pre-med, all right.
Marshall McHacken, I don't know.
No? Okay.
James Redding, I have no idea.
All right.
Ashley Marshall, medical field.
Okay.
Maggie Mather, pediatric oncologist.
Well, you're detailed there.
She knew.
Yeah, that's funny. My nephew is he's just about to graduate with his MD. He's got his PhD in medicine or medical field, cancer research. He's got his medical doctor, MD, in pediatric oncology. Interesting. University of Colorado. If you want to go to school forever, go ahead and do that. He's 31 years old and he hasn't graduated yet, and he has to do another 4 years of residency, so he'll be about 35 by the time his education's complete. So it's probably about double your age. That's okay. That's fine. Hey, I'm glad we got a mix here, and I've got folks that, if you're in this class, I think you want to know a little bit about leadership. I mean, that's the goal here, is figuring out leadership. And you probably think after 26 years in the Army, this guy's going to come in here and tell you about military leadership and how it's structured, rigid, disciplined, and all that. And I'm not going to tell you any of that. Sure, there is some of that in the military. And you know it. If you've seen any movies with drill sergeants, drilling trainees, and all that, you see that straight line discipline dished out by the drill sergeant on a trainee. But that's not what real leadership's all about. And let me talk to you about some of that. I'll tell you more of it's about, and listen to this sentence carefully because you have to pick it apart. It's common sense derived from experience. Okay, it's common sense derived from experience. What's common sense to you right now may not be common sense to you 10 years from now when you're in the middle of oncology courses, or you have somebody in the chair and you're a psychologist talking to them. It may not be the same perspective. So you have to take common sense, but you have to derive it from experience. I think there's some non-negotiables. Oh, by the way, during this real talk here, there will be some little bit about, I want to hear back from you, but also I'm going to give you some tips on life. I did this for a graduation speech one time, and I think they really appreciated it. There's some non-negotiables on leadership that you need to know about. And those non-negotiables are ethical behavior, high moral standards and moral courage, honesty, and integrity. There's 4 of them there. And I think that you can spend a whole class on each of those going over them and what it really means. What it really means. Some of you will, when you go to college, spend a lot more time on those. But let me talk to them again. Ethical behavior, high moral standards and moral courage, honesty and integrity. It's the ability to do the harder right over the easier wrong when it comes down to it on that. That's it. You can boil up almost all of them right there. And that's a quality you can't do without. You have to have that quality. You know, when you hit the workforce, what you don't want to do in a leadership position is surround yourself with people that think like you. And that's the tendency to do it that way. You want to have people around you that think like you feel better, because what happens? Every time you get an idea, you want to do something, they're just going to say, yep, yes, that's a great idea, yes, that's great. And what you'll have is a bunch of yes men. You don't need that as a leader. Surround yourself with diversity, people that don't think like you. That's hard. But I tell you what, folks, that diversity will give you the right opinions. They'll tell you a different path. You might have to look down that path to figure out if it's the right path or not. It's also about, and this goes with moral courage, telling the truth to those in power. People don't like that. The President of the United States, he doesn't like to be told he's doing something wrong or something he's doing is hurting people. But sometimes even he needs to be told the truth. And sometimes, like I said, the truth is hard to tell, but it's moral courage. Lastly, on the non-negotiables, there's dignity and respect for everybody. No matter what race, creed, color, sex, religion they are, dignity and respect to everyone. I think in 26 years in the Army, I learned that better than most other lessons. You know, in the Army, everybody's the same. It really doesn't matter. It's based upon performance. You get promoted based upon your performance and potential. It doesn't matter who you are. And that's the way it ought to be. Unfortunately, that's not the way it is everywhere. But if you want to be a good leader, that's the way it needs to be. Okay, I'm going to give you some tips. Wear sunscreen. You think, okay, it was actually Kurt Vonnegut that said that first. He says, wear sunscreen. You know, when you're 50 years old, you don't want to be a shriveled up prune. Wear sunscreen. Number 2 tip, physical fitness. It's important. It relieves stress, it gives you more stamina, and it gives you greater confidence. So physical fit. How many of you work out or are into athletics? Great. Awesome. You need to keep up with it. Now, have you heard the saying, no pain, no gain? Okay. That works till you're 40. All right? After 40, remember this now. After 40 years old, that pain is trying to tell you something. You got to listen. But until you're 40, that no pain, no gain is okay. Next tip. A sense of humor will stop many problems from getting bigger. Sometimes it is good to laugh. Even in tough situations, it's good to laugh. Particularly at yourself, if you need to. And that's okay. I know I've been in situations where the last thing you think of is laughing, but that's what comes out. Sometimes I've had situations in the Army, I've never laughed so hard or never cried so hard, sometimes in the same day. And that's just a roller coaster of emotions. Get ready for it. It seems like it's not fair. Your parents probably tell you when you tell your parents, it's not fair. What do they say back to you?
Well, life's not fair.
Yeah, get used to it. Life's not fair. Yeah, that's right. I tell the story of a second lieutenant sometimes. Second lieutenant is a brand new officer in the Army. Just graduated from ROTC or West Point as a brand new officer in the Army. And when I was battalion commander, I would get a second lieutenant in and I'd talk to him. And I'd tell him, you know, if I give you a mission to do, You need to step out, move out, and do the mission. A lot of times, I get second lieutenants that I give them a mission to do, I give them a task, and they analyze the task to death. They don't move anywhere. They're analyzing and analyzing, thinking about it, and nothing ever happens. Nowhere. They don't go anywhere. I'd rather have the second lieutenant that may not think it through properly, but starts moving out in a direction, some direction. Because if they're moving, I can steer them in the right direction. But if they don't move, that person is very hard to steer. I hope you understand what I just said, because it is an important lesson. And I think bosses tend to look that way. All right, now, I think the meat of this, I'm going to tell you the four most important, actually, you're going to tell me, the four most important traits of a good leader. Throw some out that you think are good traits.
Good listener.
Good, oh man. Where'd you get my speech here? Get my talk? Good listener. Who said that? Awesome. That is one. And I'm going to talk more about that. Give me another.
Honesty.
Honesty? Well, that's the non-negotiable part, but you're on it. Yeah, you have to have that. Go ahead.
Works well with others. Works well with others.
Yes, and let me tell you about that trait, because this I phrase it a little bit differently, but you're right. I phrase it that good leaders are more interested in other people than themselves. Okay, that's number one. Good leaders are more interested in other people than themselves. It's not about me, it's about us. Okay? You had my, the communication one, you had my last one. Lastly, they're masterful communicators. Okay, masterful communicators is number 4 that I had. Give me a couple others.
People take criticism.
Take criticism? Yes, and I think that goes back to number 1. It fits into number 1. They're more interested in others than themselves.
Confidence.
Confidence. Yes. And let me tell you how I'm going to phrase that. I'm going to give you number 2 here. They are passionate about what they do. They're passionate about it. And that passion is contagious. It rubs off on others around them. When you see that person, that leader, going after it, whatever the task is, and they're passionate about it, it is contagious. I'll give you number 3. Number 3, they have a clear vision of where they want to take the organization. They know where they want to go. Okay? So I'm going to repeat all 4 of them. Number 1, they're more interested than others than themselves. Number 2, they're passionate about what they do. Number 3, they have a clear vision. And number 4, they're masterful communicators. And they can make others understand their vision. Now, a lot of people say, I'd like to, in my organization, I'm the leader, here's where I want to be in 2025. Here's where I want to be. Good leaders don't push their people towards the goals they have in 2025. They don't push them. They actually pull them. A good leader puts himself out in 2025 and looks back to the present and says, here's where I want to go. Come with me. And they're out in front. They pull them. Another thing on masterful communicators. They communicate by what they say, but more importantly, by what is not said. Good leaders say enough, but they don't go too far. And what is not said is just as important as what is said. I think you'll understand that a little better. Let me put it to you this way. If you're a leader, you're always on stage. It doesn't matter. They watch you. When I was in leadership at Fort Knox, I guarantee my employees knew exactly what car I drove, how I drove it. If they saw me speeding, they knew it. If they saw me run through a stop sign, there's the commander. He's just running through the stop sign, no problem. Good leaders always on stage. You've got to do the right thing. And sometimes it's the harder right. So your people are always watching you. Think about that. When I think all these things are in place, the high moral standards, ethics, integrity, honesty, when you have those 4 traits of leadership in the lead in the company, I think what happens is you soon develop what I call the magic organization. What do I mean by that? The organization you're leading seems to do everything right, and they make it look easy. They make it look simple. They don't even look like they're working hard to get it done. They're flexible, agile, and they can respond quickly to change. Not every organization can do that, but I think those magic organizations seem to get the job done with little or no effort. But believe me, there's effort behind it, but it's just the effort is pushed to the right place at the right time. Now, I want to have a little discussion here about authority versus responsibility. Anybody tell me what that means, authority versus responsibility?
What you can do and what you should do.
What you can do, yeah. I think when you boil it down, that's probably, I need to write that down. You boiled it down pretty well. Any other comment? Authority versus responsibility? I can wait you out. Kidding. I'll go a little further. Most managers, they desire to have an authority equivalent to their responsibility. In other words, they are responsible for these tasks. They always want the authority to be able to execute those tasks without any other help or assistance. But I'll tell you folks many times, your authority will never match your responsibility. You'll always be responsible for more than you have the authority for. So what do you do when you get to that point? You know what you should do, but it doesn't match what you can do. I like that, I used it. It doesn't match what you can do. What do you do?
Have other people help you.
Say again?
Have other people help you.
Other people help you, or seek permission. That's one. What else? I'm going to tell you something. Your teachers and guidance counselor are probably going to cringe a little bit. All right? Sometimes you need to push that envelope. Sometimes you need to push forward beyond your authorities if you know that's what is right. If that is what is right. Now, that doesn't mean you can break laws or anything like that. But it does mean you have to think through what you need to do and get it done. And I put it this way. If you succeed in that, you give credit to your
Jonathan
team.
Westmoreland, report to Miss Bernard's room 202. Jonathan Westmoreland, report to room 202.
If you succeed in what you're doing, credit goes to the team. If you fail, you have the responsibility as the leader. That's your responsibility if you fail. If you always wait for permission, you'll miss an opportunity. But I need to mention, check with the lawyers first sometimes, okay? Check with your boss. But sometimes, I'm going to tell you in life, you need, and it's all about risk-taking. And let me talk a little bit about that right now, your age. There's an abyss out there. There's an abyss. A deep, deep crevice cavern. It's 1,000 feet deep. Safety-wise, you're at the point in your lives where you push the envelope and you look into the abyss. In other words, you're speeding down the road in your car at 100 miles an hour. You know it's wrong. But folks, you're on the edge of the abyss and you're pushing it. It's only when sometimes when you look into that abyss and you stare and you see death in the face that you realize that I pushed the envelope too far. And sometimes it's too late. And I wish sometimes when my soldiers were pushing the envelope too far and they were looking into the abyss that I could reach out and pull them back. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. And you always test it. You test the limits. I'll tell you folks, it's a safety issue on that. Be very careful pushing it too far or pushing risk, taking too much risk. Risk is okay. You know, if it's always if life were easy. It's not. Life sometimes isn't fair and sometimes hard. Let me give you some more tips. It's a funny group to talk to. When you were 13, 14 years old, all of a sudden your parents weren't as smart as you thought they were, were they? And then now it's when you're, how old, this group is 16, 17, 16?
Yeah.
Okay. For some of you, your parents, think, well, my parents, they're pretty dumb. All of a sudden you get to be about 24, 25 years old. Wow, my parents have gotten a little smarter. I didn't know they were that smart. Then all of a sudden you had kids. You have kids. You get married and have kids and you realize, oh man, my parents were geniuses. It's a change in perspective. And everybody goes through that. And what I mean by perspective, it's important to take a look at another point of view. Instead of dismissing or saying, hey, my boss, my leader or something, they're off the rocker, they're crazy. Maybe not. They might have a different point of view than you. So don't automatically think that way. And again, you'll see that with your parents. You'll realize, man, they weren't as crazy as I thought they were. Talk about perspectives. I served with the Navy once, and I was on a submarine. Talk about a different point of view and a different perspective. Okay, being on a submarine cramped like that was an interesting experience, and I thought the Navy was crazy, and I realized then that they're not crazy. They know what they're doing, but man, whatever they're paying those sub guys, it's not enough. Here's another one tip. Everyone in this room has something special to offer. It's up to the leader to find out what that is and put it to good use. No one should know more about your job than you. Work to get there. Getting down the path, this is an important one. Getting down the path to success as efficiently and effectively as possible is the job of a manager. Getting down the path as efficiently and effectively as possible is the job of a manager. Making sure that road or that path doesn't lead to a cliff or a dead end, that's the job of a leader. You see the difference? Managers are worried about being effective and efficient. Leaders are worried about that path to success and it doesn't go over a cliff. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, every reform was once private opinion. Every reform was once private opinion. That iPhone in your pocket, that was somebody's idea. And they spoke up and produced that idea and they ran with it. Laptop computers, all of that was once private opinion. I think it's important that you, if you're a leader, you get those opinions from your folks. You must dialogue with your team to hear those private opinions. How many of you are wearing watches? Anybody in here got a watch? Okay. Look down at your watches. Do you have the Roman numeral? Anybody have the Roman numeral watch? Roman numeral watch? No? Roman numeral? About over here. Nope, nope. These guys don't worry about time. Okay, I wish somebody had a Roman numeral watch because I want them to look at the number 4 on a Roman numeral watch. What is it?
IV.
Yeah, IV. It's funny, if you had a Roman numeral watch, somebody had a Roman, I've done this in a room, and they've looked at it and said, yeah, it's IV. And I said, look back at it. It's not IV. It's 4 eyes. Watches have 4 eyes for the number 4 because it doesn't get confused with 6. That's the way they do it. But it's funny, you can tell a person with a Roman numeral watch, what is it? And they look down and they say IV. After I tell them that, they look down and they say, oh my God, it's 4 eyes. They totally missed it. Why is that important? Well, I'll tell you, you're failing to see things then. And the question is, what else are you failing to see if you couldn't see that? Because you looked right at it and told me it's IV. And when I told you it's not, you look back and you said, oh my God, it isn't. What else are you missing during your day? Sometimes it pays to take that harder look. Now, let me talk about the environment that you're in. I think this is a good place to do that. If you're a good leader, your decisions won't be simple. They'll be tough. You'll be working in an area that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Call it VUCA, V-U-C-A. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And you're trying to make decisions in that gray area. The decisions you make are important. But I will tell you folks, there's not a simple decision. There may be multiple solutions to the problem. You have to navigate a solution. It may not be the best solution, but you'll need to navigate a solution or make decisions. And you won't have 100% of the information to make that decision. So when do you make that decision? Well, a good leader takes all that into account and is comfortable making decisions in that environment. Others around you might fail, but at the same time, you're comfortable making decisions in that complex environment. For leaders, many leaders reinforce failure. They have an idea, they project the idea, and they say, this is it, this is what we're doing, this is what we're doing, and they go down that path. And they're unwilling to change because it's their idea and they don't want to see it fail. So they reinforce the failure. I think there's some good examples out there. IBM and the mainframe computer. I hear Kodak is bankrupt. Many different, Kodak was the big film company. Now it's all digital cameras. And they weren't able to make that jump at the proper time. They reinforced failure. Many leaders do that. Be careful of that. Peter Drucker, he was a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer, coach, a motivational speaker. I listened to him one time and he said, most leaders should stop trying to figure out what to do and start figuring out what they shouldn't do. They shouldn't figure out what they need to do. They should figure out what they should stop doing. And that might be reinforcing failure. It might be quirks or idiosyncrasies in the personality. It may be a lot of things. And he says it's important sometimes to ask your coworkers, hey, what am I doing that I shouldn't be doing? You get plenty of your coworkers telling you that. Anybody in here Giants fan? Oh, you are? Awesome.
Yeah, it's like 6th grade.
I'm originally from New Jersey. I have been a Giants, Mets fan my whole life. This is 2007-2008 season though. If you watch that, the Giants won the Super Bowl that year. And this year, by the way, it's the same thing. If you tell the Giants, the New York Giants, they can't do something, they'll try their hardest to do it. Just because. Well, in 2007, if you read about that, Tom Coughlin, the coach, changed his leadership style. He was a very micromanaging, directive boss, and pretty much of a terrorizer to his team. But he stopped, and he went from autocratic control and a control freak to someone who formed player councils and asked players about what they should do and what he should stop doing. They aired their concerns. He stopped being that way. He started asking about their families, how they are, what they're interested in, what their hobbies were, their kids. He changed the way he communicated. That year they won the Super Bowl. As I understand, some of the same things are happening this year. You'll be happy to hear that. They're going to win. They're going to win. And I'm going to tell you the most underutilized phrase in the English language. What do you think it is? The most underutilized phrase in the English language.
Good job. Sorry.
I'm sorry, that's part of it. Good job. Okay. Good job.
Sorry, I'm wrong.
I have two words. Not good job, but it goes in there. Thank you. Thank you. I can't overestimate the power of a thank you from leaders at the proper time. Now just imagine, you're on the football team. No, let's change that. You have volleyball? Is there a volleyball team here?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody play volleyball? You did?
Um,
All right, you're on the volleyball team. Your team loses, but the other team's coach comes over to you and says, I know we won, just you personally, and said, but I want you to know I saw you play and you did a great job. Thank you for your effort. The other team's coach did that. How would you feel? You'd feel elated. You'd feel good about your performance and what you did. You'd probably go home and tell your parents about it. I had an example one time. I was a major in a staff in Germany. We were on an exercise, and I worked hard during this exercise. It was a long exercise, and I just put all my effort into it as I could. We're back now in Germany, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I hear the door open. Someone comes in, and I heard him sit down behind me. I had no idea who it was, but I was busy doing something, and I said, I'll be with you in a second. Okay. I turn around. It's a 2-star general that is my boss 2 levels up. And he came in, he sat on I had a foot locker down there. He sat on my foot locker. He turned to me and he says, I saw how you did on that exercise. I saw the effort you put in. I just want to say thank you. You really did a good job. Man, I felt great. I felt great. That thank you was so important. I had a driver in the Balkans, in Bosnia. He was with me for 6 months. He took care of me. Drivers do that. They watch out for their bosses. And, you know, sometimes there's times when I went, did this, and I had no food. Somehow he got food for me. When I came back in the Humvee, there was food. And he was just a marvelous driver, a marvelous soldier. When he left, just before he left, I got his address. And I wrote home to his parents. I just wrote a little postcard, and I said, look, you don't know me, but your son was my driver for 6 months. I just want to say thank you. Thank you for the way you raised him. Thank you for letting him serve. Thank you for being his parents. I thought it was important. I never heard back from them or anything, but I know they got it. And it was important for me to make sure they understood. Thank you. In the Capitol, there's 2 people that not many people really get to know. There's Pam. Pam cleans out our offices every night. She sweeps, she mops, she cleans out the garbage cans, she dusts the desks and all that. That's Pam. Pam works from 4 o'clock till midnight, an 8-hour shift in the afternoons. She's been doing it for about 10 years. She lives in Frankfurt. She's single, but she's got 2 kids and she's got some grandkids. She loves her grandkids to death and sees them often. Then there's Joe. Joe is the buffer guy. He buffs the floors at night in the Capitol. When I come in the morning, the floors are spotless and they're shiny as can be. It's beautiful. So I've been in the Army and I've seen people buff floors. Joe does a great job. Those floors look awesome. I have gone up to Joe and asked him how he does it. And I talked to him about his job. And I said, thank you for doing this. You do a marvelous job. I just want to tell you, I notice it, how good it is. I've told Pam many times, Pam, thank you for cleaning my office. You really do a great job, Pam. Every time I come in, my garbage can is empty. The desk has been dusted. The floors have been vacuumed. It looks awesome. Thank you for what you do. Now those 2 people, a lot of folks just kind of pass them over. There's the janitors, there's the guy doing the floors. Folks, everybody in your organization is important. Everybody. They're doing a job. If they're doing a good job, they need to know about it, and you need to thank them. Going back to what somebody said over here, winners listen. I mean, really listen. Sometimes managers, they're better talkers than they are listeners. But if you're a leader, you got to listen. And you can't listen if you're talking. Sometimes subordinates, it takes a lot of guts to go up to a leader and say they're wrong. But you have to listen. Okay. I think that said a lot, and I don't know if it all sank in. I hope it did. 26 years in the Army, and you probably didn't expect what I told you today. You probably thought about, that we were going to form a platoon and drill up and down the carpet. That's not what it's all about. It's more about what I gave you here. Many of you will be leaders, if not all, at some time in your life. And right now you start forming those ideas of what a good leader is and what a bad leader is. Watch the good leaders carefully. But at the same time, watch the bad leaders carefully as well. See those things they don't do well, and make sure you don't put them in your portfolio. And with that, how much time do I have?
Well, I have the principal here and superintendent, so I defer to them.
Oh, okay. Then if I've got a few minutes, I'm going to take any questions you have or comments.
Well, I want to take from what you said, I just want to say thank you, because I thought that was a really good speech.
Thank you.
There's a lot of information.
Thanks. I hope it was a lot of information. My psychology guy here is going to take it in. He's listening carefully. I tell you what, you know how important that field is? You know how short we are on psychologists and mental health specialists in this state, everywhere? And I will tell you, if you want to do that, that's one tough job, but I got to admire it. Those folks do so much, and they are really not thanked properly for what they do. Social workers are part of that group as well. Other questions? Go ahead.
So how did you get your start in the military? Did you go right out of college?
Yeah, I graduated from West Point. So if you graduate from West Point, you go right in. I was 17 years old. I was in New Jersey. And how I got in. My dad was in during the Korean War, but he didn't serve in Korea. He was drafted, and he was in for 18 months. That's it. Otherwise, nobody in my family was in the military. I was 17 years old. I'd been accepted to West Point, the Naval Academy, Princeton, another school in New Jersey, and I had an older sister that was in college, and a younger sister was about to start. And my parents couldn't afford to send everybody to college and pay for it. So West Point, you get a scholarship. You don't have to pay a thing at West Point. In fact, they pay you. And then they give you a job after you graduate. I figured, wow, this has got to be a good deal. I had no idea about the military. I planned to stay 5 years. I ended up staying 26. That's how I got in. Some people go in for very altruistic reasons. They want to really serve our country. I went in because I didn't have the money. But the way I thought about things changed over time.
Where did you serve while you were in
Texas, Kansas, Georgia, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, 3 places in Germany. I was in Friedberg, Heidelberg, Nuzlocke in Germany. The Balkans, I was in Croatia and Bosnia, and 2 different times. And in the military, I've been a lot of other places. Korea. I've been to Moldova, Iceland, and other places like that. When I was in Iceland, good story. When I was in Iceland, this Marine comes up to me. He was a Lieutenant Colonel Marine. He comes up to me and says, I've been in Iceland. I flew in there a couple of times. He goes, oh, nice place. There's a pretty girl behind every tree. There's not a tree on Iceland. Okay? There's no tree. Found that out pretty quick. Iceland's an interesting place. I've been a few other places too, but those are mostly it. Yeah, you join the military, see the world, or the Navy was that way. Join the Navy, see the world. Navy goes to a lot of places, but you can go to a lot of places in any of the services. What else? All right. Well, folks, listen. It's been my pleasure. It's been my honor to talk to you. There was no other greater mission in my life today than to come here and speak to you. I think if more people would get interested in the youth that are the future leaders of this country, we'd be a lot better off. Take what I said with a grain of salt. There may be things in there you don't agree with, and that's okay. That's perfectly okay. But if there's things in there you agree with, I need you to think about that. Sometimes it pays to just dialogue with others about these things that are interested in it. But thank you for letting me come here today. The leadership over here, thank you for letting me come here today. I